Hello YouTube, this is Machiavelli here. I wanted to make a quick video on the whole carnivore diet thing, which is getting to me, recommended to me multiple times to this day, every day. And one of the reasons probably why it's recommended to me is because I eat meat in almost every meal of the day. If it's not eggs or any kind of dairy product I eat. And so why do I eat meat 3 times a day? Mainly because I like it. I'm not a diet expert at all. For whatever fucking reason, I could always stay skinny in my life, eating whatever the fuck I wanted. However, I do tend to switch up my diet from time to time, bringing in new habits. First of all, because of money. Like, eating like a fucking 5-year-old tends to get expensive as a student. Second of all, because I realized what doesn't have an impact on my weight does have an impact on my brain, on my concentration levels, etc., etc. So I do spend a bit of my time watching, researching videos, thinking about how an optimal diet should really be. And I noticed a kind of pattern which I want to, on the internet, which I want to correlate with an old book that I read that will generally lead to the meta conclusion of thinking critically about any kind of hype culture you see online. And I want to keep this video short. If you want to read my longer brain. If you want to read my longer brain, just go into the community posts. And because the simple reason for that is I don't want to make any 20 minutes videos anymore. Simply because I don't watch 20 minutes videos. So I usually skip like 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Or I hold the ×2 button for speed to just rush through it. So why would I produce them? So, taking a look at the time, quickly said, the book that I want to correlate this on is the book The Psychology of the Masses, written by Gustave Le Bon. And it's an old book which has been released in the 19th century, and I was 16 at the time, back when it was released. No, back when I bought it. And I read it and I thought the author was writing pure bullshit there. So basically the whole principle of the book is, to summarize it in 2 or 3 sentences, that what the mass believes is stupid. So basically what 80% of the people believe, any other kind of mainstream political view or something like that, it's stupid and naive, and you should think critically of it. On the other hand, however, if the masses split, like what we see in society today, we have 2 stupid masses, so we have a heterogeneous mass. One side is liberal, the other side is conservative, and once you align with such a mass, you incredibly fall into the pitfall of believing stupid things, because you're automatically, by aligning with the mass, infecting your brain with fundamentally stupid beliefs. This is why, personally, I'm having this YouTube channel and posting my videos to certainly motivate the people who watch this to independent thinking, questioning all the hype cultures seeing online, even questioning me, of course. Like, why wouldn't you question me? I'm not an authority in any kind of sense. So, one of the prime examples of such a smaller hype culture is the carnivore diet, where people who are part of this culture believe that the carnivore diet is the most natural and most human diet a person could consume. So they restrict their complete diet on meat, eggs, and dairy. And so some of them even go as far as to only eat meat or whatever. And while I personally don't have much evidence on whether it is good or bad for you, I haven't like really deeply researched into that, into the positives and negatives. I do have noticed that it comes with quite a hype on the internet, so many influencers talking about that, etc. And that's why I think there is some valid skepticism that you can get behind that. So there is some valid reason why you should be critical of it. Because in every such a hype nowadays on the internet, there is some kind of agenda behind it. So while the veganism as an agenda could be pushed by the mainstream agenda to get rid of meat completely, the counter side of it, the carnivore agenda, could be supported by meat industries and dairy industries to push for certain counter groups or countermeasures to keep the meat business alive. And so this is a thing to keep in mind. And my personal opinion, from what I thought about the whole carnivore diet thing in the last couple of days, is that while this may work for some people going carnivore, especially if we look at different ethnicities, for example, Inuits and Mongolians, they can live on the carnivore diet pretty well, basically because they grew up in regions where the only available food source was meat. Because in Greenland, for example, in Greenland there is hardly any vegetation possible. In Mongolia, for example, there's hardly any vegetation possible. So there are loads of animals like seafood, like seals, walruses, or something like that, available in Greenland. While in Mongolia, there are a lot of goats, buffaloes, I think, and other kind of animals, horses, available in Mongolia. And so what I really believe when it comes to diet is to look at your own race. For example, like me, a white man, mostly coming from Europe, will have another genetic predisposition than someone who is like black and is obviously having their roots in South Africa, not in South Africa, in Africa. Does that mean that me, being a white person, has better diet than someone who is a black person? Of course not. But it does mean that we have a different predetermination of what is good for our bodies and what not. So I'm a firm believer in that. So where the Europeans grew up in forests, like evolved in forests, where there is a lot more fruit and vegetables naturally occurring, it would make more sense for us. Our bodies respond better to eating more fruit and vegetables compared to an African man whose diet may consist naturally of chicken, watermelon, and grape soda. Alright, that was obviously a joke. but you get the point what I mean. I don't know how Africans are evolved to eat, so you got to ask the Africans this. But we in Europe have different kinds of fruit and vegetables roaming around in the flora than the Africans do, or than the Asians do. That's why I think importing superfoods from, I don't know, Asia or something like that is not as good for your health as you might think, even though all the vitamins, etc. are in there. So I'm already on the 10 minutes mark, I overshot my shot. Therefore, be critical of anything that is hyped on the internet. Thank you for watching.